Hello there, guys. It's me, Kit Bombing again, and welcome back to my channel, ladies and gentlemen. I am so glad to see you for joining me on this brand new video for story time together. I'll be doing another read aloud for you guys as we learn and listen. So, it's going to be focused on Disney stories. Some of you are quite familiar with the film called The Wild. It is Disney's modern animated 2006 film. Some of you quite remember were a child, but obviously I've never seen that movie, but I've heard of it. So, first of all, I'll show a book I've got. I'll go to read to you. I have got Disney's The Wild. It was published by Disney's Wonder World of Reading and Scholastic Edition. You can see his characters got Bridgett, Nigel, Larry and Benny, Samson and Ryan. It's about the animals who lived in the zoo when Samson and his friends spend their adventures in Africa. So, what I'm going to tend to do, I'm going to show this book when I read by words from each page, and also show some splendid illustrated pictures from each page also. So, are you ready for story time? It gives you a lot of attention. Now, shall we find out for the story? Excellent. So, please join me. Sit back and relax and enjoy. Samson the lion loved telling stories about the wild to his son Ryan. Their friends at the zoo, Bridgett the giraffe, Larry the snake and Nigel the koala, had heard these stories too. Even Benny the squirrel all know about Samson's exciting adventures in Africa. He was the biggest wildebeest I had ever seen. Samson was telling everyone. Ryan rolled his eyes. He had heard this story many times before. The cub wanted to be just like his brave father, but Ryan had been born at the zoo. His father thought the zoo was a great place, but Ryan didn't. Ryan wished he could go to the wild so he could learn to war like his father. Then his father would be proud of him. Inspired by his father's story, the cub opened his mouth to let out the loud roar, but it was more fun of a squeak. The zoo visitors laughed. Ryan felt terrible. Soon it was time for the zoo to close, but the animals didn't settle down for the night. That's because this was a night of a big game. It was the Penguins against Samson's team in the Turtle Curling Championship. All of the animals went to the penguin enclosure, all except Ryan. Samson wasn't playing well because Ryan wasn't there. It looks like the Penguins might win. We will not lose to flightless birds, Bridgett stated. Samson agreed. We are going to lose a secret play. Using Larry the snake as a big slingshot, Samson shot the turtle, and it looked like if it was going to stop right on the bullseye. Until the ground started to shake, ruining Samson's shot. That shaking was caused by the gazelle stampede that had been started accidentally by Ryan and his friends. Then the gazelles ran into the penguin enclosure. What a mess! Ryan was very sorry. Samson was angry and disappointed. This made Ryan feel worse. He was never going to be able to make his father proud of him now. The sad cub went for the walk. He spotted some big green boxes on the other side of the zoo's fence. Earlier, some pigeons had told him that these boxes were being shipped to the wild. Suddenly, Ryan had a great idea. He would hide inside one of the boxes and sail away to the wild. That he would return to the zoo with a mighty war. His dad was sure to be proud of him then. Ryan made his way over the fence and curled up inside a box. Then the box was loaded into the moving van. The engine roared to life, and suddenly Wine didn't think going to the wild was such a great idea. "Dad, help me!" the cub called. Samson and his friends had been out searching for Wine. Samson heard his son's cry, but he was too late. He watched the van drive away. So Samson, Bridgett, Nigel, Benny, and Larry set out to rescue Wyan. They had to sneak out of the zoo and make their way to the big water before Wyan's box was loaded onto the ship. First, they hid themselves in a garbage truck that was leaving the zoo. Benny the squirrel was sure he could lead them from the city to a big water. Couple lefts, couple rights. Bada boom. You fair, he told his friends. Then Benny fell off the truck. When the truck stopped and animals managed to get out, they wandered the streets of New York, staring at the skyscrapers and the bright neon lights. But without Benny, they were lost. They loaded up in the city's sewers. Luckily, the resident crocodiles thought they were tourists. The crocodiles happily gave the visitors direction to the big water. But when they reached the water, they were too late. They watched as White's box was loaded onto the ship. Before Samson could reach the ship, it sailed away. "We've got to follow that ship," Samson cried. There was a boat docked nearby. The animals jumped on board. The captain jumped overboard. The animals managed to launch the boat and sail after Wyan, but they weren't very good sailors. They were almost lost at the sea. Luckily, Benny arrived with a flock of Canadian geese. Since Canadian geese are travel experts, they were able to lead Samson and his friends to Wyan's ship. They followed Wyan's ship for days and days until their boat finally landed. On the shore of a tropical island, they had reached the wild. The animals looked at Samson, but the lion didn't know what to do next because he wasn't really from a wild after all. Samson admitted they had made it up, all of his stories about wild. "I'm a fraud, okay? I'm sorry. Just go back to the boat. I can't protect you out there," Samson said to his friends. Once they knew they were unprotected in the wild, Samson's friends panicked. They raced back to the boat. Samson headed into the jungle alone to find Wyan, but Benny convinced the others to stay and help Samson. "I know you were scared," the squirrel said, "but Sammy's out there all alone, and so is Wyan." Bravely, the animals headed into the jungle and right into trouble. They were soon surrounded by wildebeests. The scary animals scooped up Nigel and forced the rest of the gang into a dark cave in the base of the volcano. The wildebeests treated Nigel like a king. They put him on the throne and placed a crown on his head. Nigel was confused. Then Casa, the leader of the wildebeests, stepped forward. "Oh, great him," Casa said to Nigel. "You must lead us in our transformation from prey to predator." It seemed the wildebeest thought Nigel was a god who would teach them how to eat lions. And for practice, the wildebeest wanted to start by eating Nigel's friends. Meanwhile, Samson had finally found a sign of Wyan. He heard his son calling for help. Wyan was chased by two vultures, But when Samson arrived, the vultures quickly flew off. "Dad," Wayne shouted happily. "It felt good to be together once again." But their happiness was cut short when Cassor's wildebeest's wife. "Run, son," shouted Samson. Then he pushed his son up a tree and climbed up after him. "Dad, you should be chasing them away," confused Ryan told his father. So Samson told his son the truth. Samson had really been born in a circus, but because he couldn't war, he had been shipped off to the zoo in disgrace. Wanted you to be a part of me," Samson said, trying to explain why he had made up the story. One was hurt because his father had lied to him. Suddenly, the wildebeest attacked. They rammed into the tree, trampling it. Wine fell into the ground, but Samson went over the giant cliff. The wildebeest forced Wine to go into the dark cave inside the volcano. Wine was happy to see his old friends, but not for long. Castle was now ready to eat the sugan and the lion cub. Nigel had to do something, but what? Stolen for time. Nigel issued a command. We cannot cook them without onions," he said. Samson appeared in the nick of time. The volcano was beginning to rumble as the wildebeest surrounded the lions. Then the wildebeest stopped, with tired of pretending to be something we're not. One of the wildebeest said to Cancer they didn't want to eat anyone. "Fine," said Cancer. "I'll kill them myself." Cancer quickly knocked Samson to the ground. "He's going to kill Samson if we don't do something," Benny shouted. Why don't we use a secret play?" Larry suggested. So the friends launched wine at the Cancer. He let out a giant roar as he sailed at the evil wildebeest, but Cassis tossed the cub to the ground. "Get away from my son," bellowed Samson. He let out the mighty roar that sent Casa flying into the cave wall. The noise shook the walls and rocks rained down on Casa. But when Samson stopped roaring and the shaking continued, the volcano was about to erupt. Luckily, everyone got out in time. The animals celebrated as their boat sailed back to New York. Now father and son had their untrue story of a wild. Samson hugged his son. "I don't think anyone's going to believe it," he said with a laugh. But it didn't matter. Father and son would always be proud of who they really were, and proud of each other. The end. So, I hope you guys have really enjoyed that story of The Wild. It was inspired by Disney's 2006 modern CGI animated classic film, The Wild. This is a really interesting scenes about Samson the lion and his friends went to a tropical island in the wild. I think it's quite interesting story about Larry, Benny, Bridgett, Nigel, Samson and Ryan went on an adventure from a zoo to visit a wild in a tropical island. Okay guys, so if you want to make suggestions on for the next upcoming video, please let me know on the comments down below. So we're highly dedicated to magical legacy behind the animation studios from Walt Disney Company since 1923. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I'll hope you see you soon.